Hello, my name is Malik Abbasdab. Welcome to UPfront. On UPfront, we get up close with those who make the news. And today we are talking about Parliament and the minority in Parliament and the problems in that house. Is this just a noisy minority, or this is a minority determined to hold the majority and the government accountable in tandem with their responsibilities in the house? When we come back from the break, I will introduce to you a very influential member of the minority, and we will settle for this discussion. Keep watching. You're welcome back. You're watching UPfront, and today we are asking whether the minority in Parliament is a disruptive one or one which is determined to hold the government accountable. My guest is the Member of Parliament for Tamale Central and a ranking member of the Constitutional, Parliamentary and Legal Affairs Committee of Parliament. My guest is Alhaji Inusa Hussaini. Honorable, welcome to UPfront.
Thank you, Abdulmalik. Thank you so very much.
Are you the minority just disruptive? Because you are complaining every step of the way.
Well, you need to understand the present constitution of the minority and the particular circumstances in which we find ourselves. We have an overwhelming majority in Parliament. The minority in every Parliament represents the voice of the voiceless. Under the governance arrangement, the President introduces all policies and bills to Parliament. Now, where the President has overwhelming majority, which one renders to a very large extent the significance of the minority in Parliament, the minority will have to use very aggressive, very forceful, very determined.
So you are aggressive.
We're very aggressive. We're very, very aggressive.
Is this aggression properly placed?
Yeah, very well placed.
Because some say you are embarrassing yourself by jumping onto every single matter and making a nuisance of yourselves.
No, we don't make nuisance of ourselves. And I can't recall any event that we commented on that turned out to embarrass not only the minority, but the party which we are representing.
Really?
Yes, I don't recall.
When you held a press conference and said that the finance minister had involved himself in some dealings and you referred to a company as an individual, was that not an embarrassment?
No, somebody referred to Templeton. Clearly, we've dealt with Templeton. I mean, it is not the first time the company is dealing with.
You're talking about Franklin Templeton.
Yeah, it's not the first time that the company is dealing with this country. And so we never, it's just for mischievous purposes that the finance minister came to say that, well, Templeton is not a human being, it's a company. But we're saying that aside, even if there was a slip of tongue, we made Ghanaians know, and the Attorney General, the present sitting Attorney General, confirmed that what happened at the blind side of all Ghanaians. That the speed with which...
Why is this confirmation?
Well, Attorney General said she didn't know anything about it. You could recall?
But the finance minister doesn't need authorization from the Attorney General to transact business.
Whatever happened that day was a matter of an agreement between foreign partners and Ghana.
This is just a trade.
Yes, a trade. Well,
this is just a trade. It's a normal, regular process.
You want me to cite many trade agreements that have been reduced to partnership agreements?
This is not a trade agreement. This is just trading of bonds.
Yes, a trade. But so what is it? Is it not,
and your government had laid down the procedures for doing this.
Is it not entering into an agreement of a sort? Is it not committing Ghana to some future payments? Has it not got terms and conditions? Are those terms and conditions favorable? Who is the person to advise on whether the terms and conditions are favorable to this country? It's the Attorney General. He's a legal advisor to government.
So you do not agree that the minority is disruptive?
We have never
when you are commenting on virtually every matter?
We should comment on virtually every matter of national interest and importance. That's what we are supposed to do.
Does that not make you noisy?
No, it doesn't. It makes us responsible. I'll give another example, Malik. When the Senate matter broke out, we were told that it appeared we didn't have a mind of our own, and that we were remotely controlled by other persons.
Which is simply true because you refuse to comment on it.
We refuse to comment on it.
And I heard you specifically say that it was because the government had decided that Yoko was going to initiate investigations and therefore you didn't need to comment on it.
We didn't need to comment on it.
And I found that strange.
No, we're waiting for the outcome of the investigations. And then we have been vindicated.
But there have been many institutions, there have been many times, even when investigations are being conducted, you still come and raise questions. And you want some other organizations
Which many other times? No. Which many other times have they started investigations that were converted on?
I give a boss, for example.
Boss, no, they didn't comment investigations. It is the minority which raised issue and the minister constituted a committee.
Even when they constituted a committee, you were not satisfied.
We were not satisfied because we saw that the committee was heavily laden with people who were sympathetic to the government.
So that defeats your argument that you wanted to wait and get an outcome. You didn't even wait.
But first, what I'm saying, Malik, is that it is we who raised the issue that compelled the minister to set up a committee, which committee the minister himself truncated its investigative functions by accepting wholesale a report that was produced by a supposedly constituted BNI committee, which he didn't have control over, and sort of used that report or alleged report to truncate whatever activities.
And talking about the BNI gave you a report, and the minority didn't, and this was in respect of the vetting of a deputy minister. And because the BNI had mixed up some names, you took it and ran to town, only for this to turn out to be false.
Malik, whatever is done in the public official capacity is presumed to be true and accurate until the contrary is proved.
Should you not have spoken to him before going to the public?
The report was produced by a BNI. The BNI is a public institution mandated to do such reports. The report, if you had said that the report did not emanate from the BNI, that would have been a different matter.
The BNI named somebody, and you took that name and said that because that name bore similarity with the deputy minister, it's the deputy minister.
The BNI did not write to the minority.
Yes, they wrote to Parliament, and you were the those BNI who took it and leaked it.
The BNI wrote to the president and copied Parliament and told the president that it was advising the president to withdraw the nomination of that agri minister. We intercepted the report. And we used it. It turned out that, like I said, that presumption is a rebuttable presumption. It turned out that
you were wrong.
No, we were not wrong. The BNI was wrong.
And then you latched onto the BNI's wrong report, and you didn't.
Well, that was the BNI's report. What other report do you want us to rely on? Somebody who is not BNI or who is not in public office?
At least you should have given him the benefit of a hearing. You are a lawyer.
We are not trying him. We're just saying that we.
No, but you tried him in the media.
We don't try him in the media.
You called his integrity into question.
We did it. It was the BNI which called his integrity into question. We relied on the BNI report, and we were all misled by the BNI report. And so it was. We didn't originate the report, and it was in the national interest for us to talk about the report, and we spoke about it. We drew attention, and probably because we drew attention, further and better work was done on that person.
That's not further work. The person just came out and said that it's not me.
Oh, and the person disclaimed the contents of the report and
he said that he had never traveled to Canada, or the areas that the person who had been indicted by the BNI report had cited. He had never traveled.
Yes, so it was because the report. Well, if we had not made the report public, probably that person would not have even known that there was such a report on him.
If you gave him the benefit of a hearing.
We were not given the benefit of. We're not trying him. We're not trying him. We didn't constitute a panel to try that person who was nominated as deputy minister. We relied on the report, and we made the report public when it came into our hands. That gave opportunity for that person to disclaim the content of the report. In fact, that is good for us. Because if we had not relied on the report and made it public, probably the president too would have been misled. But because we relied on the report and made it public, it drew attention to the contents of the report and compelled the person to whom the report was speaking about to make disclaimers.
So Parliament just resumed sitting. And the first day you went to Parliament, the minority were, and I'm talking
up
about...
in arms.
Yes, saying that the process by which you were asked to come back to the House was not proper.
Nobody knew when we were coming back to the House. until we saw letters in our pigeonhole saying that we're coming back on the 3rd.
You didn't know when the House was being adjourned. It was not explained.
It was not explained. It was the business committee had gone to a business committee meeting and had agreed that we could come back on the 3rd of October. That was a business committee report. And 3rd October became a tentative date. Tentative. It didn't mean that.
So if it's a tentative date,
yes.
How do you come and say you were not aware and that the standing orders of the House were being
because it's a
violated?
tentative date. It's a suggestive date. Okay?
And this was made known to you by the time you were rising.
And so the rules of Parliament, the orders stipulate that when the House adjourns and we are to come back, we are given 14 days.
You were not persuaded by the majority leader's explanation.
How could we have been persuaded by the majority leader's explanation when the Hansard captured the closing remarks of the Speaker and the end of Parliament in the last sitting, when it said that the House was adjourned sine die? That's the official report of Parliament.
So in
the House was not adjourned to reconvene on the 3rd of October. The report said that the House was adjourned sine die, without a date.
So you disagree with those who say sometimes you just oppose for opposing sake?
We never oppose for opposing sake. We are a responsible minority. We understand the burdens and duties imposed on us by our present circumstances as a minority in Parliament. We want to carry the wishes, expectations, and reasonable expectations of Ghanaians on our shoulders.
Is the minority divided?
We cannot be divided. We are united in the pursuit of what is good for Ghana and what will be in the interest and welfare of all Ghanaians.
Do you think the minority's reputation was tinctured by that allegation that was made by Member of Parliament for Boku Central, Mahama Ayariga, and the person at the forefront of this allegation was your own Chief Whip, Alhaji Mutaka Mubarak, MP for Asawasi. So you had the same minority members disagreeing with each other and arguing. Was the minority affected by that?
The minority, to the extent of the revelation, was not to say affected, but
were you embarrassed?
Became disorganized at that time, because it was like we were accusing members of the vetting committee or appointments committee were accusing each other, and so that clearly could work to divide, if you want.
And it is the minority members of the appointments committee.
Yes, who were accusing each other. So now you should understand that when the minority members on the committee met, you, apart from looking at the tenets of what you are to discuss and the import, and this is relevant to national development, you also have a position on what you think is best for Ghana. And you need a united voice to be able to push it through. And so where you have disagreements, even within your good self as a bloc, it could tend to compromise your ability to push that agenda and to ensure that you pursue the legitimate interests of Ghanaians. And so to that extent, I agree that yes, having accused each other, it brought some level of disagreement and disunity within, not the whole minority, within the members of the...
What's the relationship between Mr. Ayariga and Alhaji Mutaka Mubarak? What do you know?
Well, they're fine. I've seen them severally. I mean, this is... whatever accusation came about in the appointments committee consequent upon the revelation was because they were members of the appointments committee, and largely because they are members of Parliament.
But none of them escaped unscathed.
Yes,
after that allegation.
Clearly, if you make an allegation against anybody, up to now, and I tell you, even yesterday, in the meeting elsewhere, we were still discussing it. It will not, the ramifications of the allegations will not go away in a day. It might never go away. And the fact that the perception has been planted in the minds of people might never be erased. Okay, so clearly you can't wish away what has happened.
One of the things that you complained about yesterday was that there is a tall list of things to deal with before Parliament rises again. What are the key ones?
Well, you would have heard today that we are talking about the development bills.
Yes.
Development Authority bills.
The Northern
Development, the Central and the Coastal Development bills. Today we've started discussions on them. The innovative and policy-driven, politically driven establishment of the Office of the Special Prosecutor is coming up. I mean, yesterday we concluded, we reviewed the draft report presented by the clerk of the committee, consequent upon our meeting in Kofredua.
And you are a ranking member of the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee.
Yes, I am, and that is a big one in this sitting. I mean, because the bill has some attachment or relationship or consequences upon the powers of the Attorney General, and the way the whole institutional mechanism is being set up has some areas that clearly appear to not to be in sync with the thinking of a generality of Ghanaians.
We have been informed, and we know this to be true, that the Attorney General has submitted a long list of proposed amendments to the bill. Is it true?
Well, we've already considered that. We did that in the Kofredua. The Attorney General, consequent upon
so this is not new?
It's not new. It's not new. I mean, consequent upon the first presentation of the bill under a certificate of agency and the issue withdrawal, I think the office organized a stakeholders engagement, and then many suggestions came up, and they sought to amend the very bill that they brought. Luckily enough for them, when the committee, Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee met, we decided that the bill must be taken through normal legislative process. Yeah,
because you oppose the attempt to push it through.
I mean, the bill has serious, even in its present state, has serious difficulties to overcome and challenges. And so what's
the most fundamental difficulty with this bill in its current state?
When you say fundamental, I mean, there's so many fundamentals that I don't even know where to start.
Let's deal
but
with
the first thing is that there was an attempt, and the citizen vigilante Martin Abide spoke about it. There was an attempt to limit the ambit of the operations of the bill.
When you say there was an attempt, has that now been taken out?
We are suggesting an amendment by deletion of that attempt. That is the section 3.4, which sought to limit corruption and corruption cases to its impact.
Yeah.
Okay. So we said, well, why do you want to limit the choice, the discretion, the excess of discretion of the special prosecutor? The bill uses company law principles to set up an office which is not going to be run as a company. Okay. So how do you fashion the board in such a way that the board will not have overwhelming and controlling effect or influence on the special prosecutor?
We know that you, the minority, have always been against, in some way, this bill. And I remember that one of your lawyers and member of parliament for Bulsa North, James Agalga, raised concerns about it, and you have continuously raised concerns about it, and the fact that the person may become an unruly horse and may target opposition members. Why should anybody believe that you are sincere when you make proposals for amendments?
Those proposals have been vindicated, not so. Civil society has suggested numerous amendments to the bill.
And it's not peculiar to this bill.
No, they are very interested in this bill.
But this is not peculiar.
It's not peculiar, but the interest shown in the bill is said that, and the amendments suggested to the clauses so far presented suggest that this interest is quite higher than interest in other bills. Now, we're looking to secure the transparency, integrity, and reputation of not only the office, but the office holder. We need to create credibility in the operations of the special prosecutor. We need to disabuse the minds of Ghanaians that this is an institution intended to be set up to hunt political opponents. I mean, so you are designing and fashioning out an institution that will meet the reasonable and legitimate expectations of Ghanaians, and that will instill some confidence in Ghanaians in the performance of the duties of the special prosecutor. So what are you looking to say? You don't want the special prosecutor to be looking backwards in the performance of his duty, or looking only backwards.
How are you scaling the problem of the Attorney General having the sole responsibility to undertake prosecutions in this country as provided for under the Constitution?
Yes, and that is one fundamental, and but somehow we have been able to get around it. If we are able to get Parliament to agree with the thinking of the committee, and also in sync with the Attorney General. What we have done is the bill sought to legislatively delegate the functions of the Attorney General to the special prosecutor legislatively. I mean, so we are saying that it appears that Parliament is through the back door
amending the Constitution.
And so why don't we create that office and get the Attorney General to exercise his responsibilities, his functions, his delegative authority by delegating in writing or by legislative or executive instrument the powers to prosecute corruption and corruption-related offenses to the special prosecutor. And so that will be a practical and more effective way of exercising that delegative authority by the Attorney General. So we're looking at many.
What does that do to the AG's power to enter nolle prosequi?
We're saying that we're under common law, the AG, when she enters nolle prosequi, the nolle prosequi simply means that we are no longer interested in the prosecution of this case. When she says that she's no longer interested in the prosecution of a case under common law, the Attorney General is not compelled
to give any reasons.
In this particular case, if the Attorney General so thinks that she has to enter nolle prosequi, she must give reasons.
But what does that change?
It has political implications. It's for political purposes. Mind you, we are not only doing a bill that will meet the legal requirements of the law, it must also meet the political requirements of the present situation. And that where the Attorney General enters a nolle prosequi and gives reasons, it is left for Ghanaians to determine whether the reasons are genuine, germane to the collective well-being of this country.
So the committee has submitted its report. What's happening now?
The report will be laid in Parliament, debated. Hopefully tomorrow. We intend to take the report tomorrow. And then
because I hear it's on the order paper.
Yes, we intend to take it tomorrow. And then we can debate the committee's report, then move on to the consideration stage somewhere next week or the week after.
Can we expect to get it passed into law by November?
We intend to get it passed into law before this before this term runs to an end.
Which is when?
Which is in December.
So tomorrow morning I can do a story on my online that says the Honorable Inusa Fuseni says that the special prosecutor's bill may be passed into law.
Yes,
before the end of the year.
Yes, that's the program. We intend to pass into law before the end of the year. Indeed, you see, people don't understand the minority. We are not there to frustrate government in the performance of its duties.
But you're politicians, and you make political capital from frustrating your opponents.
We draw attention to gaps, lacunas, inconsistencies, policy deficiencies in bills. We must do that, and we do that in order to help shape and transform the bill into a bill that will serve the collective interests of Ghanaians. And so when people see us doing that, they think that some people misinterpret that to mean that we are just being fussy, noisy, unruly, and no, but we are
disruptive.
We don't disrupt anything. I mean, we don't. I mean, when you see us forcefully arguing the case, we have every reason to believe that is the position.
Let's talk about the Northern Development Authority bill. You come from, you are of Northern extraction. What's in the bill? Does it solve the problems that your constituents have?
There's nothing in the bill that we have not seen before. But there's more that has been left out. The bill is seeking to challenge or tackle development challenges within the three northern regions. And to try to bring up the development issues, I mean development in the north to the position in which the generality of Ghanaians enjoy in other parts of the country. The bill is like SADA, except that it doesn't reach out to parts of Volta region and parts of Brown Africa.
And except that SADA failed.
Failure of SADA was not because there was no law or the law was not good. Failure of SADA was management. I'm happy, Malik, you have said this. And that's the minority's position. That look, what are you doing? And if it is because you want to limit the operations of SADA to the 3 northern regions, that can be done by amendment, where you just limit the reach of SADA.
They don't want to amend it, they just want to pass a new law.
So you see that this is an attempt by His Excellency the President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo to meet a political promise, and not informed by any extraordinary desire to bring about development.
Which is what you did when you passed the SADA bill.
No, we had said that. First of all, the Kufuor had established a Northern Development Fund, but that never worked. Nothing happened. The way I said that, it's important to look at the development trajectories or development considerations in the 3 northern regions in terms of ecology than in terms of space. That characteristically, you will have issues of poverty, underdevelopment, and all stretching beyond the northern region to parts of the Brown Africa region and the Volta region.
But that remained a political talk. It didn't achieve any of the objectives.
It did.
What are the objectives?
The
guinea fowls that flew to Burkina, or the trees that were never planted?
The trees were planted. I mean, you've not heard the report produced by the University for Development Studies.
That discredited report.
Who discredited the report?
That report has been discredited,
by
in fact, decimated.
By who?
Because we went to all the places that these trees were supposed to have been planted.
So you mean that JoyFM went and saw that the report that was produced by a university was not true and accurate? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Well,
we discredited the report.
In fact, on the report.
There was ample evidence in that report itself that it could not be it could not be relied on. In fact, Gilbert Edie, who was the SADA boss at the time, himself raised doubt about the integrity of the report.
Well, this is very serious. I never heard Gilbert Edie say that, but
this is public knowledge.
It will be very
that report was discredited.
It will be very disheartening to say that a report produced by a university like the University for Development Studies on the development challenges of the North, and particularly what initiatives were being done to ensure that the northern people have development by their own university, will produce, their own university will produce a report that was not true and accurate.
This has nothing to do with the integrity of the report. The university, it's just the report that was produced.
But the report was produced by the university.
Yes, but it turned out to lack credibility. Where are the trees?
The trees are there.
It's been 5 years since.
The trees are there. Probably you have to do a follow-up and see. The trees are there. I believe the trees are there.
In fact, the people who planted the trees actually told us that many of the trees were not planted. And I have spoken to MPs from the north who confessed to me in private that the trees were not planted.
Well, I'm not aware of that. But in any case, if there was a report and the trees were not planted, were planted which were not taken care of and they withered away, it's a management issue. It's not a policy issue. So it means that the management then did not attach much importance and attention to ensuring that the spread of the Sahara, which has debilitating consequences on the lives of the people and exacerbates poverty in the north, which will require the planting of trees to curtail its spread, was not followed through. So it's a policy implementation issue, and not a lack of policy issue.
So you have pointed out a number of issues with the Northern Development Authority bill. What's going to happen to it?
Well, apart from that, then the bill, apart from the renaming, just the renaming and cutting to size of SADA, hiving off the Brown Half region and the Volta region. Apart from that, the bill appears not to have a secure source of funding for the implementation of policies under SADA. 3, we do not see...
The same problem SADA suffered.
The same problem. So that's what I'm saying.
Because you promised 200 million seed money and 100 million every year, which never happened.
Well, that was a statement of intent, not so.
No, that was a promise to the Ghanaian people and to the northern people
that's a statement
in the 2008 elections.
So whatever, that's a statement of intent.
Oh, it was a promise to the people.
Yes. So we promised that we will make available to the people of Ghana 200 million as seed money and 100 million every year. So that promise was a statement of intent. That's what I'm saying.
And 3 years into your government, you did nothing. In 2012, you just went and took a loan of 200 million and then pretended to do something.
No, we didn't pretend. We're doing something. And even in the 3 years, we're still making releases to SADA. And SADA was doing a lot of activities. In fact, you are not suggesting that in the 3 years, officers appointed under SADA were just sleeping. They were working.
In the first 3 years, absolutely nothing was done. It was
really?
Only in 2012. Go and check from 2009 to 2012. Absolutely nothing was done. Check when the SADA bill was passed into law. Nothing was done.
It was surprising to hear that nothing was done because I worked with SADA. In 2010, I worked with SADA. I worked with Gilbert Idi. Things were being done. Things were being done. Probably they didn't advertise or publicize whatever they were doing. But things were being done. I would closely work with Gilbert Idi then, and Mr. Andane of Standing Bank, who was the chairman. And so it will be surprising to hear this.
Let's deal with the NDC. Have you seen the Kwesi report?
No, I've not seen the Kwesi report. The Kwesi report was meant to investigate the cause of our defeat in the recently ended election, and also to suggest ways that we could remediate some of the lapses and gaps and challenges that confronted the campaign and the national executives and other executives at all levels to ensure that we build a united party, a front prepared to confront the 2020 elections. It was meant to be an internal document. It was not meant as a public document. And so
I'm not saying you should give me a copy. I'm just asking whether you, an internal party person, and a significant one too, whether you have seen it.
I've not seen it. I think that at the appropriate time, probably I'll see it, but I've not seen it. And I've not made any...
When will be the appropriate time?
The report is still being digested by the executives. And
it's been months since it was given.
Well, you have to take time to mull the report. You have to take time to look at how the report views what happened in the 2016 elections and what recommendations they have made.
It's a 400-page document. If they were reading a page a day, I'm sure by then
it's not just reading. You must read and analyze. Look at the suggested implementation strategies, whether they are achievable. How do you manage fallouts? What has the report said about that? How do you promote the general unity of the party, the cohesiveness of the party? So, whereas the report captures what, in its view, should be done, you have to put it side by side with what the party's general philosophy is and what the party thinks will bring back this party to power in 2020. And so, in reconciling these things, you need time. And that's what they're doing. They're just looking at the report, looking at the causes, analyzing the causes, sometimes challenging the views. Mind you, the report is the views and opinions of the committee of the report as they went round. And those views are not sacrosanct.
Let's take a break at this point. When we come back, I'll be asking the Honorable Inusa Fuseni whether he's leading former President John Mahama's campaign in the northern region. You're watching Upfront. We will be back. Welcome back. You're watching Upfront. My guest is the Honorable Inus Ofisini, Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, ranking member of the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee of Parliament. Before we went on the break, you were telling us about the members of your party, leaders of your party, digesting the report and maybe disagreeing with the report. Really?
No, we're not disagreeing with the report. I just said that the report captures the views and opinions of members of the committee as they went around, manifested by what people were telling them. They didn't just go to produce verbal or oral recording. If they even produce verbal or oral recording or written recording by members of the party at the various levels, as a committee, we're obliged to analyze and synchronize, if not, or distill whatever the members were saying at those levels and put that into a report. Distilling, analyzing, and synchronizing whatever they received transformed what the people told them into their opinions and views. And I'm saying that every view, every opinion can be questioned or challenged. And so
we should expect some of the views in the report to be challenged.
Well, not challenged by, it will challenge implementation. It can be challenged by saying that, well, this view clearly cannot be the view of the people on the ground. Or this way you have suggested, the remedial measures you have suggested cannot be implemented because of ABC. So that can be challenged.
Are you laying grounds to disagree with the report if it turns out that the publications that the Daily Guide newspaper is making turned out to be true? For example, they report that the report says part of the reason why the NDC lost the elections was because President John Mahama lived like a movie star. And you are perceived, widely regarded as a loyalist of John Mahama. Are you laying grounds to discredit the report if this report of the Daily Guide turns out to be true?
That's speculation, and I'm not prepared to engage in speculative thought here. I have not seen the report, and when I read about the Daily Guide saying that the Kosibuchi report said His Excellency John Dramani Mahama lived like a movie star, and I said, well, probably they're reading a different report.
But you haven't seen the report. How do you know they are reading a different report?
Because this is a person who was an assemblyman in his area. He became an MP on 3 different occasions. Stood elections on 3 different occasions. One to represent the people of Buale, rose to become a deputy minister, a minister, rose to become a vice president, and ultimately a president. He knows all the political nuances of this country. And to say that that fellow lives like a movie star who has gone through the mill, if they say that there's one person in this country who has gone through the mill to become president, this is His Excellency John Dramani Mahama.
So
if he looks like a movie star,
if it turns out,
so that you are saying challenging, that's what and I cannot bring my mind to comprehend. I mean, it's not somebody who is a novice, who doesn't know politics and the implications of living like a movie star. You know, flamboyant life. And
if the report turns out to say exactly that, would you challenge it?
I will still challenge the view of the committee.
You would disagree?
I have, and I campaigned with His Excellency the President, not only in the northern region, in some parts of this country. And I remember vividly our last stop at Kasua when we were campaigning in the central region. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama had worked for 4 days in the central region, had lost his voice. He was not prepared to abandon the last meeting. We went there. He couldn't speak. but he was there. People had to read his speech for him. I don't think that is the life of a movie star.
Is he going to run again?
Nothing stops him from running.
That's not an answer to my question. Will he run?
Nothing stops him from running, but he says clearly that our attention must be focused on rebuilding the party. A strong, formidable NDC will be a party to beat by any other party. And so, why don't we build the party, build the institutions, make the party battle ready, then select a candidate.
Assume that the party is done, the building is done, all of that is done. Will he run?
That the choice is his, but nothing stops him from running.
Will you advise him to run?
I would advise him to run. You have already said it. I would advise him to run.
Are you leading his campaign in the North?
No, I'm not leading his campaign, but I will be honored to lead his campaign.
Are you preparing the grounds for him?
I'm not preparing the grounds for him, but if he is so minded that I prepare the grounds for him, I will. I will.
Is it because he made you a minister?
No, it's because I believe in him. I have absolute faith in John Dramani Mahama.
Is this just a matter of building his reputation, or he believes he still has something to offer? If he's gone through the mill that you say and he loses an election, wouldn't good judgment dictate that he should just let go?
He loses an election under circumstances that are still to be understood.
So you don't believe you lost?
They are still to be understood.
You don't believe you lost the elections generally?
I believe that MPP won the election by surprise. They were surprised they won the election.
You don't believe that the Ghanaian people are smart enough to make a choice?
I believe the Ghanaian people are smart enough to make a choice. And that smartness even surprised the MPP. That's what I believe.
So imagine you bring a John Mahama and he loses 2020. What becomes of him and your party?
Nana Akufo-Addo lost 2 elections and won the 3rd one.
So if he loses 2020, you will advise him to go 2024?
What I'm saying is that the decision is his. Professor Mills, and like Professor Mills, Nana Akufo-Addo has said that he was taking time off politics to relax.
None of the people you mentioned was president. Mills wasn't president, he was vice president.
Yes, but we have got around the world, presidents have lost elections and come back.
Give me an example.
Well, I can't immediately recall an example, but I can tell you about Martin Kreku in Benin. He lost an election, came back. There are many around the world.
Some people say this is an example of a typical African. He doesn't want to let go because he's been president. He's gone through the mill, you just listed it, up to the pinnacle. He should sit somewhere.
John Dramani Mahama is a young man. He has tremendous energy in him.
How old is he?
He's around 58, 59 years.
He's nearing retirement. That's not a young man.
In politics, there's no retirement age. If not, Nana Akufo-Addo would have retired long ago.
Nationally, he's nearing retirement.
It's not
a man who is nearing 60 can't be a young man.
What I'm saying is that in politics, there's no retirement. And the present president is a living example that the rules of public office that require a person to retire at 60 at most doesn't apply to a political office.
But at 60, you can't be young.
Well, you are a young man in 60. I mean, in considerable terms in Africa. Until recently, when Macron and Obama emerged, it was a young age to go into politics. And so, he still got tremendous energy in him. You can imagine the amount of energy locked up in the frame of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. He's still got a zeal and passion to work for his people. He's done tremendous work for this country, and I'm sure posterity will judge him.
So, Honorable, how does this work? You are a member of Parliament and a respected one at that. You have declared your support for John Mahama. One of the most respected leaders of the NDC in Parliament is Alban Sumana Bagbin, Member of Parliament for Nadoli Kaliu. He's also declared his intention to run. When you meet him, what do you tell him?
He's declared. I also heard his declaration on radio. And Honorable Bagbin was my senior in Chambers, where we practiced from Law Trust. He's been like a mentor to me all these years. Like I said earlier, he has every right to, and he's told me that he never made a forthright declaration that he wants to contest president. He only said that, well, if the 2020 elections call invites him to contest the NDC primaries in 2008, and he will do so. And so,
but he said in when he celebrated his
yes, that's what he said. I spoke to
that,
him.
Yes.
He told me that, and I don't see anything inconsistent with the philosophy, doctrine, practices of the NDC. That when we are going for elections, primaries to elect our flag bearer, everybody who is otherwise qualified by the regulations that we put out can put in a form.
Does Bagwin's stance divide the party in terms of parliament?
It has never divided the party. No presidential contest has ever divided the NDC party. No presidential contest. Even when Nana Kunedo Ajman Rawlings stood, it never divided the party. Never. No presidential contest has ever divided the party. And so all those who want to contest are welcome. We are still talking to His Excellency John Dramani Mahama to also show interest in the presidential.
When you say we, you are referring to who?
Many of those who believe that he has got something to offer.
Or many of his appointees?
No, not appointees. There are some appointees
the
who
people
say
whose bed he battered.
No, there are some appointees who say they are going to contest.
Such as who?
Oh, I won't mention names. I don't think that's use your platform to promote the presidential ambition of any other appointee or any other person who wants to contest at this primary.
Is this Sylvester Mensah?
I'm not mentioning anybody's name.
Or Joshua Alabi?
I'm not mentioning anybody's name. I'm saying that I won't use this platform to promote their presidential ambitions, but I'm saying that there are many other people who think that this is the man to beat in 2020.
I didn't get a clear answer from you. If he loses 2020, what happens to him?
Let's leave that to the future.
But you have to project.
Leave that to the future. The future will take care of itself. I'm telling you, leave that to the future. Because we're going to work. There's more work to be done. The prospects are bright. We need to build the unity of the party. We started. MPP is in office for less than 1 year. They've got 4 years to go. Or now, 3 years.
And you think you can
They have got policies they are implementing.
You think you can beat them in 2020?
They have got policies they are implementing. They are facing their own challenges. They are digging their own holes. And so we have to take things as they come. And before long, we will see whether Ghanaians will renew the mandate of the MPP.
Are you concerned?
Or give them a sack.
Are you concerned that you may end up like the MPP in 2007 with about 15, 16 presidential candidates?
We will never, I don't think we will ever get to the 16 due to contest.
Why?
I don't think so. I mean, we are going to come up with regulations, and it's not anybody who has presidential ambitions in our party who can put in a nomination form for contest. No, our party is a serious party.
Really?
Yes, we're a very, very serious party.
There are those who say for a party which admits that its voters register was bloated, and this is a party which was in power and yet supervised a bloated register, how can anybody claim that this is a serious party?
The serious party is a serious party in the sense that we had tried to extend the remit of the involvement of our people in determining the leadership of the party at any level.
And did that poorly.
I told you initially that in any strategy or policy or initiative, there could be implementation challenges. That doesn't mean that the policy is bad, the initiative is bad, or
but you are not marked on the basis of a policy, Honorable. You are marked on the basis of outcomes.
Oh, you are marked.
So if you design a policy which fails, nobody will give you any mark for designing a beautiful policy.
Yes.
You designed a beautiful standard policy,
say that,
but it failed. Nobody will credit you for it.
You will say that you failed in the implementation of the policy,
which is a failure.
Yes. So you now have.
You are not credited for the policy.
So you now have the option to either improve upon your implementation strategy or abandon the policy because you cannot implement it. Okay? So that's what I'm saying. You need to know. You see, when you hit your leg against a stone, when you stumble, to know what has made you fall, you need to go back to the place that you stumbled and see exactly what object it is. So, and that is exactly what the NDC is doing now. And so, if we have seen that our party's attempt to broaden the base for decision making in the party, ensure that everybody comes on board to determine who occupies any leadership position in the party.
That process failed.
In the implementation, that process failed. But the policy is a good policy. It's a very good policy. You are making the people owners of the decision. You are making people at the grassroots or at any level of the party feel and believe in their ownership of the party.
So did the NDC take consistent steps on its own, which led it out of power?
Well, some of the steps could be our own mistakes in implementation. You just mentioned the primary, NDC primaries, parliamentary primaries, and the use of all registered voters who are sympathetic to the party at the constituency level.
So the thinking was wrong.
The thinking was right.
If the thinking was right, how did you go so wrong?
Let me tell you how the thinking was right. And we discussed it severally at several levels. The thinking was right in the sense that if you go for parliamentary primaries, you are able to determine exactly who are the registered NDC members by their cards, by their contributions, by their activities within the constituency. Then the majority of the people who are identified as NDC activists, who have paid up their dues, determine and settle on a candidate to lead them into the parliamentary elections, there's every reason to believe that all these people, including the constituency executives and the branch executives, will work together to ensure that that person wins. So you are extending and expanding the network of organizers within the party.
You copied the NPP and copied poorly.
We didn't copy the NPP. We are the only party, not only in Ghana, in the whole of Africa, that had decided to...
By 2019, who do you expect to be NDC's flag bearer?
No, let's wait and see. But if John Dramani Mahama puts up his bid to lead the party, he will be a man to watch.
Thank you. It's been an honor. Honorable Inusa Fusini is a member of parliament for Tamale Central. He's been my guest on Upfront. My name is Malik Abbas Dabu. You've been watching Upfront. God willing, we will bring you another exciting discussion on this show. Until then, keep safe. Bye-bye.